Hey guys, here we are once again taking shots outside of our bankroll. I'm up to like 1300. Well, now I'm a little more, so I'm winning at 2-4. But um, playing three tables, and on the right to fill the space, we've got this weird crop circle that Windows has supplied me with. So enjoy looking at that. And yeah, again, I couldn't find games and just loaded up what was available, and lo and behold, there's a 2-4-0 limit game. So we're taking a shot. I'm in a shot-taking mood. I've successfully moved to Austin, and hopefully this is my first session since moving here. Busted out the monitor, got everything set up, sitting on a bar stool, playing on a counter. I know, and I'm drinking this thing called Chameleon Cold Brew Original Coffee, which says it has 270 milligrams of caffeine per serving, which is, it says 3 times caffeine and more flavor per ounce than regular coffee. So don't let me do anything stupid during these 40 or 45 minutes or so. I'm just going to, on the top right, check this one down. I think I get called on the flop by all sorts of hands: kings, queens, pocket pairs above sevens, and as well as like gut shots, ace 10, ace jack, and when he bets the river for full pot, I think I'm looking at a king or better. What do we got here? A min raise. Just gonna muck 3-5 suited, although I'm so tempted to play it. I'm gonna be playing, since we are taking a shot, I think it's smarter to play a little bit tighter pre-flop and avoid getting into stupid situations. So yeah, here we are. Speaking of stupid situations, so what should we re-raise to here? 3, we'll go 4. 4x seems good on the bottom left, and we're just gonna play 3 tables again to focus on this spot. I love it when I flop 2 pair. So we'll just lead for half pot, which would be my standard, and get the money all in. Ah, damn. If he raises there, we jam. When I bet the top left and I get called, I'm usually looking at some sort of pair or an ace, and it was nice of B-Rye to sort of clue me in to the fact that I don't have to, in order to attack the weak and middle parts of my opponent's ranges, I don't have to start triple barreling every weak hand I have. I can just triple barrel hands that I wouldn't necessarily triple barrel earlier in previous eras of thinking, that have much more equity, to make it much easier on myself. I mean, it's simple when he said it, but easy to misinterpret things that are outside my understanding. So here we get this guy's 58-17 over 12 hands. Doesn't really mean much, except he's not playing with a full stack and just leads out for 6. I have nothing. I don't even have a back door. If I had the spades, I might raise there, but I'm just gonna fold. I would have turned the back door. The back door 2 out nut draw. Oh, 8 out, right? Yeah, no, 4 out nut draw. 6 out? 6 out nut draw. I wouldn't have hit. Speaking of my inability to count my outs, so in the previous video I talked. Sorry, I had to take a sip. I talked a little bit about learning GTO approximation approach to poker and why some people might raise queen 10 here, but against a dude like this, let's see. He seems like he's playing every hand. I'll let him stab at it, and I'll check raise him with my trips. It's totally viable to just making a quick check raise. Hopefully I can get him in the quick call mood. Totally viable to just bet there. bet and try to check raise the turn, bet and bet. And I only advocate that line because his stats are kind of, he's playing a lot of hands over 12 hands. Again, 12 hands doesn't really mean anything, but the looser they are over a smaller sample size, the more, and especially given the fact that they limp in the cutoff, more likely it is that they're playing kind of fishy. So yeah, I talked about the GTO approximation approach to poker and sort of what I thought the pros of learning that would be, and since then that spiraled off into a conversation that was already kind of in the infancy with Rob, with Entity, about trying to do this, and he hooked me up with Blah, and so here I alternate between checking and betting. I really like betting because I would bet with my bluffs, and if I get check raised, I can easily fold. He'll call me with worse hands, and this is fine, even if what is he check raising with? Let's just talk about this. I'm not going to continue, but I do want to talk about this. It's very possible that he would check raise bluff here, because if I'm 3-betting light on the button, many of the hands that I'm betting cannot continue here. You might even think that I'm betting a polarized range, including this hand and better, and all hands that are worse, in which case a check raise beats them. A lot of the time it just makes me fold. And I'm just gonna fold and let him have it. But and another reason why you might think that he's bluffing is because wouldn't most regular players, and he's playing across multiple tables, he's on the top right table as well, wouldn't most regular players, and he's on all 3 tables, wouldn't most regular players call there in order to keep allowing me to bluff? Thing is, I don't know anything about my opponent, and even if he is bluffing some percentage, we don't know what that is. We can't really even make a guess. When I bet kings there, I'll be continuing with those hands and stacking with those hands, so it's okay if I fold a hand as strong as ace queen. It's still, just because he check raised doesn't mean checking is preferable. It just means that bet fold was the highest EV play. So circling back to what I was talking about and using that hand as an example, one of the benefits of learning a more math-based approach and being able to use GTO approximation is I could then explain what just happened and give you a exact mathematical reason for why ace queen is a fold but king x isn't, and why even if he is bluffing, we're playing a range that makes us pretty much indifferent to it. Here I could 3-bet the 9s, and I think that's totally fine on the bottom left, but we shall check and just muck here with the underpair. So what are we looking at? He just let out for full pot. We'll call. I see no real value in raising. I think we can just call again. Bet's really small again. I don't think a player like this is bet folding any hand with showdown value, so we're either ahead of him or we're not. And let's see what he bets on the river. He checks. I don't think I can get anything better to fold, so I'll check back and see what happens. And he had a pair on the river. So that's fine. So yeah, anyway, I keep getting distracted. Rob hooked me up with Nan, Blah, who and we've started talking, and we're developing a series that's going to be, it's cool. We're pretty excited about it. He's basically going to break apart my game and build it with me back together from the ground up. with mathematical foundations. The so we're kind of talking about how to do that and how to show you guys this as a series and sort of build something that allows people to follow along with me as I struggle with this, and also kind of lays out the groundwork for anyone who, like me, is more of a field player, is a field player, and wants to become more than just a field player and wants to understand why being a field player in a few years won't be good enough anymore because of all the work other strong players are putting into their game, putting into really understanding the depths of theory the expansion of theory that's been occurring in the past couple of years. It's sort of been put forward, advanced by a lot of these strong players who are really putting in time away from the table. What we'll have is sort of my saga with Blah and with other coaches on DC that show kind of hopefully where the trouble spots are, how to get past them, and what you need to know and how you need to learn it, or at least how I did it, in order to get to the point where you're able to mess Blah up and take all his money. So he has me starting before we're gonna record everything that we do, and I'm gonna be blogging about this too. We just want a log of this entire process. So whatever media we're conversing in, Skype, if we're talking, if we're chatting, if we're emailing, if I'm blogging about it, we're recording everything. So we can look back, and Entity Rob is actually going to be assembling a guide out of all this logging to this entire process. So if I don't even know if we have a name yet, but a name that's been bandied about has been from exploitable to unexploitable. And so if this is something that interests you at all, excuse me, this coffee, wow, it's really strong. If it's something that interests you at all, follow along. I'm pretty excited about it. I don't know when we'll start because he has me set to watch Mathematics of No Limit Hold'em before I even talk to him. And that's the first thing that I'm going to be watching, and then I think I'm going to start with like applied math, running the streets. This is in terms of videos that I'm watching, but out of watching these videos, I'm going to be taking a lot of notes and trying to learn everything that that I don't remember, and just ingrain the math into my brain, so I'm at least able to converse with him on a basic level and have the fundamentals down before we begin with any episode. So that may take me a bit of time. South by Southwest is coming up in like a few days, and I plan on camping out on Saturday to see Joss Whedon's Much Ado About Nothing. So yeah, among many other parties and music and movies, it's gonna be awesome. Like literally takes over this entire city. Everyone's been talking about it and been really hyped up about it. And I'm pretty excited. I was here for it. With DC, we went to the Interactive a few years ago, and we listened to a talk, and it blew us away. And that's how we're so awesome. We actually didn't get that much out of it. I mean, I think Chuck, Joe Tall, and I we got the shaft. We went to like the really crappy talks. Like Chuck and I went to this one where they talked about like this guy who was giving the talk, and he like his thing was that he always like did the most amazing scavenger hunts for his birthdays. Like we thought we were in something about that would teach us how to like, I don't know, improve DeucesCracked through the use of games. Instead, we like watched as this guy recounted how awesome his birthday scavenger hunts were. Anyway, Rob and Aaron Gertis, they went to some good talks, but I don't know. Hopefully this time I didn't buy a badge. So I'm not going to any of the talks. I'm just going to the movies and the parties. Anyway, that that's happening, and so that's gonna take up a lot of my time. I've got the poker documentary coming out, the online poker documentary coming out soon, and so it's gonna be a good chance to network with people and start to make some relationships that will pay off in the wide distribution of the movie. And anywho, what does he have when he calls and leads out there? Probably a pair. Not really sure, but with King 10, I'll just fold. I'm playing pretty in line this session, I think, with the exception of that 8-9 suited 3-bet on the bottom left a little bit before. Yeah, so I'm going to start watching Mathematics with No Limit Hold'em, taking notes, really learning that very well. Then I'm going to talk to Blah, and we're going to get started. I'm going to be blogging about this entire thing. So, yeah, I'm pretty excited about it. I don't really get afraid, but if I had fear, I've sort of like knocked fear. I mean, I'm sure I'm afraid of like if somebody pulls a gun on me, I'm gonna be afraid, or like I don't know, if like Freddy Krueger started haunting my dreams, I'm probably gonna be freaked out and afraid. But I don't get afraid of like challenge anymore. And fold this. Let's see how often he doesn't 3-bet really at all, even though we're 3-handed, so you kind of can't trust that stat as much. He doesn't 3-bet at all. Maybe he was just 3-betting gonna leave. I'm not afraid of challenge, but yeah, I sort of like have this perverse pleasure in getting owned and continually throwing my brain up against something. But if there was something to be afraid of, it would be this. I mean, I'm sure I'm gonna look like an idiot. I haven't done much math in a long time. What I do have going for me, though, is that I was really, actually, believe it or not, math was one of my strongest subjects when I was younger. I was on the math team in high school. I was in all the advanced math classes, and I was really good at it. It was really easy. It came naturally, and I got pleasure out of solving math problems. I kind of, actually, I found poker, and I stopped really caring about any subjects, and that mentality of not really caring sort of turned me into a bit of a slacker in school. And the slacker mentality kind of led me, I suppose, went hand in hand with kind of my love for writing, because the humanities, well, they're kind of like bullshit subjects. I mean bullshit subjects, and I mean that by the fact that like with math and science you need exact answers, so you need to like go to class and pay attention because you need to be able to understand everything in order to put the answers out there and get the questions correct. But with the humanities, with social studies, and especially English, you could really just bullshit your way to a good grade on the strength of your writing. And so that started me on the slow slide away from math. So I guess it's about time I got back to it. Sort of like I retired from math a long time ago, and now I'm sheepishly, rolling up in with a rucksack over my shoulder, saying, "Give me a steak, math. Give me a steak. I'll win you some money." Math's gonna be like, "Why should I? You're only gonna hurt me again." We'll see how this goes. It should be fun. I've never done a video with Blah before, but he seems pretty badass, and so I don't know. It's yeah. I keep saying this. I don't know. It's gonna be fun, but you guys can tell what's going through my mind. It's been rare for me to be in terms of making videos on DC, to not be in the pilot seat, to be sort of taking the student role, but I kind of like that. It takes a lot of the pressure off. I can rigorously question him I can mess with him. He's probably not going to watch this video, so he won't know that I'm messing with him. He has no idea what he's in for. You guys have no idea what you're in for. It's going to be a good show we're going to put on. Now that I'm in Austin, I can drink this chameleon cold brew all the time. I mean, you should look it up. Oh, actually, I need to show you a picture of this. Alright, so we've got a raise, a call. Seems like a good spot to squeeze. This is definitely a spot where I can also call, so I've got the nut flush draw out of position, but I like squeezing better because it looks really strong against the ETG raise, and everyone's just going to kind of play face up, in my opinion. I am 3-betting a good amount, or it's conceivable that I could be 3-betting light, but I'm not going to do much here unless I get called, in which case, well, he's now calling with, he could be calling with really his entire range, and now we're 3 away, and so, I'm going to lose to jacks, and that's going to be the end of my shot. So I'm going to 2/3 pot this. Well, no, I only have to half pot to get an all in, I think, on the turn, right? Like 60-60. Yeah, it's going to be a little bit of an overbet if we go all in on the turn. But we're going all in. So I could be running into aces or jacks here, and of course ace-jack, although I would imagine ace-jack would probably fold unless it's suited. I think ace-queen obviously calls me. Doesn't obviously call me, but ace-queen has a tough decision here. Ace-king, it could be in his range. And that's fine. I think the really the only play there is to just shove and hope he calls. I'm open to debating that though, because maybe there is a better bet size there that I'd be betting with my entire range. But the problem is I can't really imagine anything that's like going to bet the turn and not jam the river. Like, I guess the question is the EV higher to bet small in order to jam the river with your entire range? Obviously, if you check, you'd be check folding. I just feel like when you get 2 callers and you're betting into 2 people in a re-raise pot that had that action, you're pretty much never going to be running bluffs there. So the question is, like, for your value range against your opponent's calling range, is it better to be betting small to set up a river jam, or is it better to just jam the turn yourself? You know, what's the optimal bet size there? And I think that Blah could have some good things to say about that, to be honest. This is what this coffee looks like. You're welcome. So I do know that I promised a 2-parter, but we're going to go 1 part here because we're taking a shot. And then the next 2 videos, I thought I had 4 remaining in my quota for this season, but I suppose I just have 3. So this is 1, and then we'll do 2 more, and that'll be a 2-parter. And then, you know, after South by, as soon as Blah and I feel like we figured out a good format to roll this series out, and as soon as we feel like, you know, we're ready to embark on this odyssey with some kind of regularity, we're gonna roll with that. No set flopping tonight. No set flopping. What's up with that? So I wonder what would I check raise here? if I were gonna check raise. This guy seems pretty tight. They both seem pretty tight. 40 something hands doesn't really mean anything, but what would I check raise there? Do I have a check raising range? I think that's kind of interesting. I'll make a little raise here with the bottom pair. Take it down. If he calls, I'm probably not continuing. I get the free look at maybe a spade. I mean, he could have like a 6 or a 5 or like ace 5 or ace 6 that I could get to fold the turn, I suppose. Actually, now as I talk this out, thinking about the number of hands that he would bet call, a player like that would bet call, I think I gotta fire that turn, and then if he calls, just check the river. What? And this is the site where you can't see what they had, so site needs to just die in a grease fire. It's the worst. Well, online gaming's legal in New Jersey now, so that's pretty awesome. Good excuse to buy a house in the Jersey Shore and blow it up and buy another one. Alright, so we're triple barreling 10-9 because we have equity. And that's really my only reasoning. We're just gonna triple barrel. And this is probably the weakest hand I would triple barrel. So we have the nut gut shot equity. So I guess it's the low end of my betting range there in terms of bluffs. Can a shot taker flop a set? Is the question. Weak overpair. It's not good enough. I mean, we're gonna play the hell out of this weak overpair. But you know, it's just not good enough. What do we do against a check raise? Is his entire checking range there after raising pre-flop a check raising range? They just fold. What do we do if pure profit calls? What cards do we continue betting? We keep betting, but then what river cards do we bet for value? Do we triple barrel? I mean, what does he check call with after OMG Frodo Baggins? I mean, does he even have a check calling range after OMG the pre-flop raiser checks? Wouldn't most of his hands that would continue, all of his hands that continue bet? I mean, these are questions that I'm just always trying to think about. But I don't have great answers. There was a good interview with Isaac Haxton in High 6 DB. If you go look at that site, I don't know, I was linked to it, but if I'll just post the link in the thread. But there's a good article where he talks about this GTO approximation stuff, and he gives an example for why it's important, and just how guessing is just not good enough in the face of exact answers to a lot of these questions about ranges and about, you know, it's a little bit of a weak raise on the top right. It's not to say that there's not money to be made in poker. You can play. I actually played live poker recently, and I mean, this live poker game was an absolute joke. I mean, it was like riding a tricycle, and somebody else was pedaling for me. All right, let's just keep betting here. So we get min, check raised. Question is, do we have implied odds with the weak flush draw? I'm just going to give it to him because I have the weak flush draw and could be drawing dead. Funky Graham paw. Alright. We'll call King Jack suited out of position. And we'll flop the flush draw. And I think the play here, depending on his bet size, is to check call and check raise on the turn. Reason being, gives him the opportunity to double barrel bluff. I don't have any fold equity over anything on the flop, and makes my hand look weaker than it is. Makes my hand look like, well, I could have a queen, but I could also have pocket nines, pocket eights. But even though we're going all in, we have to time it. So if he has a really strong hand, we hit the flush. And that's why, fellas, they pay me the big bucks. So yeah, Ike in this article, he talks about why field players just won't be able to compete in the future. While I don't think this is true, because I think learning a GTO approach to poker is very difficult for many people because of all the math involved and all the work that it takes away from the table to evolve it, and because there's still money to be made by playing an exploitable style against other players who are playing exploitable styles, even strong players. Plus, you've also got the fact that everyone tilts, and so to catch somebody on tilt while you're playing well, you can be profiting a lot in those situations. And there's just all sorts of games in which all sorts of players of disparate skill level are competing. So I'm not suggesting that the end for poker is coming, but I think in terms of players that I might compete with in a regulated environment at higher stakes, I definitely want to be well equipped to deal with everything that's out there. I also think that with the way tools are expanding, I think a lot of this theory that people are learning about and kind of understanding in terms of how to play an unexploitable strategy, I think it's conceivable that in the future, like an update to Poker Tracker could muck the ace jack. I would have 3-betted if Pure Profit didn't do it. An update to Poker Tracker couldn't be giving you these mathematical answers to these questions I've been asking, and even at some point give you suggested actions based on them. I would imagine that the sites would quickly make it illegal, but there's a fine line, I think, between the stuff that Poker Tracker can tell you about your opponents and the abilities it can give you to play better, especially if you're schooled in how to use it and you practice using it. So it's not going anywhere now, but it's really interesting to sort of try to forecast ahead. And I guess the idea of being able to build these skills now is kind of appealing to me. And I dabbled in PLO, but I never really took to it. Never really wanted to learn a new game. I always liked No Limit Hold'em the best, but it was also a little bit. It was at the point where I was sort of aware that my math was my weakest area, and so to take on a game like PLO and really be good at it, especially looking at like what White Line was doing, for instance, to understand the game better, I just really didn't didn't have a shot at being anything more than just a fool who was trying to find good games and weak opponents. Oh, man. We're gonna counter that play on the top left with a... Let's look at this guy's c-bet. Speaking of, he c-bets a lot. So we're gonna make a raise with this hand. Make a loose open with ace-3 on the bottom left. Have I started to pick up a Texas accent? In my head, I said that like, I want to make a loose open with ace-3 on the bottom left. Must be the people. It's like when I went to Peru and I started like thinking in Spanish. I think that's a sign that you're starting to like learn another language. Like you're waking up in the bathroom the day before. You're waking up and the day before you like think in your head, I have to go to the bathroom. And then the next day you wake up and you find yourself thinking, Tengo ir al baño. Maybe I'm starting to hear everything with a southern twang. Who knows, guys? Who knows? So with queen 7 suited here, now that I picked up the backdoor draw, kind of makes it interesting. He raised the flop and bet the turn. I don't think he's bluffing, but I'll call one more on the off chance that he is, and on the off chance that I could hit a backdoor flush. I'll just open shove the river in case he has like 2-pair and gets afraid and checks behind, or I'm sure he would have checked behind queen jack and decided to call it. I guess that's a tough spot for him with queen jack considering he raised it, because like what do I open jam there with? I suppose I open jam there. I mean, he doesn't even beat enough flush draw there, so that's just a bad call from a bad player. If I don't pick up that flush on the turn, I just muck. Oh man, this guy never 3-bets. And I got 2 players. Let's nail it. First 2 looked okay. So, well, he bets. I'm just going to muck. If he checked, I'm trying to wonder if there's merit to betting. I don't expect this guy to fold anything but ace-king, but I just don't think there's any merit. After I say that, there's clearly no merit to betting, especially when we're dealing with oh my god there. So what are we looking at here when this guy checks? And he bet. I mean, I suppose we could be looking at a 10 something. I just can't see this dude folding unless he's really good. Maybe at ace king, but he called the flop, right? Wonder what he folded. Alright, so we'll play one more orbit on this 2-4 table. That'll mark. That's what I like to call the victory lap. So I'm up a good amount. I seem to be running well on my shots, at least lately, which means inevitably I'm going to be running bad next time this happens. Hopefully I don't get that on video. Doesn't make me look good. The key, though, is not to go broke, because I will not redeposit on this site. Let's see what we're at in terms of bankroll size. Not bad, almost at 2K. Not bad, I got some player points. We're on our way up the totem pole. I'm basically, well, I guess 20 buy-ins isn't really rolled anymore. 20 buy-ins used to be rolled comfortably in the party poker era. Now I'd say, what is it? 50 buy-ins? It's probably much more comfortable. I haven't seen aces today. Let's get some of those. So there's like a big food truck culture down here, where there's just trucks and trailers and parking lots that have amazing food. So I have this donut from this place called Gordeau's. You should check out this menu. If you like desserts, if you like sweets. I'm gonna play one more orbit because we didn't get any hands. I want to at least play one hand for a raise. But if I don't get one, I'm just gonna, in this orbit, that's it. That's it, I promise. I really just want to lose it all. Oops, I shouldn't have folded to that. So, Gordeau's, GOURDOUGHS.com. And just look at the menu if you like desserts. I'm looking at the Mother Clucker right now for $5.50. Oh no, I was timed out because I was looking at a donut, which is filled with a fried chicken strip and honey butter. Alright, I guess, well, I mean, look at this donut. Just look at it. Looks disgusting, but I would still eat it right now. The one I split one. My brother, Granny's pie, caramel pecans, bananas and graham cracker, and it was as heavenly as flopping the nut straight. Alright, we're gonna post because we, aka me, is a degen and has to play more hands. No one is trying to make a play at me, even though I've opened 3 hands in a row and c-bet each one. Somebody like OMG Frodo. No, he's actually not 3-betting that much. If he squoze, I would foes. If he squoze, it's an interesting situation. Alright. And that's that. Let's talk about any of this. As we've been doing in the thread. And I'm gonna go drink the rest of my chameleon cold brew and enjoy Texas because I'm a southerner now. So with that, I bid you all a safe evening, merry travels, and the luck of the Irish.